guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be painting over another one of my sketches. I actually did a few of them while I was sick and couldn't do other videos, so there's gonna be a lot of them for me to paint over in the future. For today it's this one, and it's a photo I found on Pixels, and once again I will have all of my reference photos in the description. This one I really like because I feel like it would work really well with the squash set that I'm trying to use. And it's the HOLBEIN IRODORI Autumn Set. I did a review of the spring set, and I will also have that one linked in the description. I was really excited for this one because I feel like all of the colors are colors that I would choose anyway in my regular paintings, as opposed to the ones on the spring set, which I think are beautiful, but at the same time I just don't think that I would get to use them that often. So we're using the autumn set this time, and well, it's only mostly the autumn set. I've also used a few colors from the spring set, and especially some of the pastels, I ended up using those too. I was really excited to paint over this sketch because I feel like it was something that I wouldn't have to think about and I could just enjoy painting. I think that's the one thing that's consistent throughout all of my videos in this series, is that I just don't feel like I have the same pressure that I feel when I'm doing my other videos. These are always really fun for me to do. I like seeing the sketch underneath disappear, and at the same time seeing the painting emerge out of that. And it also could look completely different. I've had a few comments saying that the sketch is always so different from the actual painting that shows up. And I think that has a lot to do with, well, it has a lot to do with you guys not seeing the reference photo as I was doing the sketch, but also it has something to do with me being the one who sketched it, having a different idea from what I would want to take away from the reference photo, and which parts about it I wouldn't necessarily find as important. Also, something that I've noticed since I started painting is that my sketching style has completely changed from when I was only doing black and white drawings and sometimes even colored pencils. I've noticed that my sketches before seem to look more finished than the ones that I do now that I've started painting. And it's noticeable for me because I haven't been painting that long relative to the time that I've been doing art in general. So I've been drawing for a long time, but I've only started painting in 2019. So that's not a lot of time, and so the changes are sort of very jarring. So when I look at my sketches from before, I almost think that my sketchbooks look better before, because I think that my drawings are more finished and more rendered. And just in general, I think I spent a lot more time with my drawings. And that's also sort of a reason why I'm sort of more insecure about doing sketchbook tours now than I was before, because I was really confident in how my sketchbooks looked before because I really liked the drawings. Now I have a lot of very unfinished drawings in my sketchbooks, and so I don't think they're that interesting. But that's not the point of this video. I do think that my sketches now look a lot less finished, and that has a lot to do with me just thinking more in color now and thinking of what it could look like after I've painted over them with the colors. So that doesn't just affect the colors, it would also affect the differences in the values when I do the sketches. Sometimes I don't even bother doing the shading anymore, and especially on this sketch I don't see a lot of shading. So it's just something that I've noticed now with my current sketchbooks, is that it's just not as finished as the ones I have before. And I really think that's why these videos are so enjoyable for me to do, is because now that I'm less concerned with finishing my sketches, it's more satisfying to see it actually be done with the gouache on top. One other thing that I did while I wasn't uploading is I did a portrait for one of my family friends, and it was done with acrylic gouache. And I think I've said before that acrylic gouache is just a traditional gouache without the ability to be reactivated after it's dry. And I would actually want to go back to that statement and sort of correct myself. With the way I was describing it before, it was almost hard for me to justify why I kept coming back to traditional gouache when I described it as just being a less fuzzy medium than the traditional one. Now I can really see what the differences are, and this also applies to acrylics in general and gouache. So traditional gouache just is more opaque than acrylic gouache. I've noticed while I was doing the portrait that I had to do for the family friend is that there were multiple times where I got frustrated because the paint wouldn't just cover my sketch completely. And if I wanted to do really opaque brushstrokes, I would actually have to do them in multiple layers. So do one and then wait for it to dry and then just do another one on top. And I don't think it has something to do with the way I was using it, because I would use the acrylic gouache straight from the tube and it would feel the same way. With traditional gouache, it's thicker, and I also think that there's a lot less of maybe the binder, just something in the paint that's not just the pigments. So I feel like traditional gouache has a lot more pigment in them, so that when you apply them to a painting, it just feels like you're using almost pure pigment in paint form. So it's just so great to get to use traditional gouache, especially after I had just used acrylic gouache. So that's why they're almost in the same level, because it still stands that traditional gouache does read as being more of a fuzzy medium compared to acrylic gouache, because after it's dry, there is a tendency for you to move them. That just doesn't happen with acrylic gouache. But then again, acrylic gouache doesn't have the same coverage as traditional gouache, at least I don't think, and at least with the paints that I use, and they're both from the same brand, so I think that it's a good comparison between both mediums. And I'm really happy that I got to finally pinpoint why I prefer gouache over acrylic gouache and also over acrylics, because now I feel like I would have more to say when I do finish my video comparing all of the different paint mediums that I use. And so it's really nice. I feel like it would be a more informed comparison now. So going back to this painting, it was especially fun for me to paint the leaves that's sort of framing her, because I wasn't focused too much on the details. I just started with the darkest colors that I have, and it's the darkest greens that I have, and then sort of built it up to my lighter greens. And these are the greens from the autumn set, and also one green from the spring set. I really think that these two sets complement each other very well. I think that the very earthy browns and greens really work well with the very vibrant and the light pastel colors of the spring set. I think that even though I was using mostly the autumn set, the painting in itself still turned out to look more like a spring colored piece. And I could be completely getting my seasons wrong, but that's how it looks like to me. And so it really feels like while the pastel colors shine more in the piece, it really needed the earthy tones of the autumn set to fully bring out those colors. So I really like these two sets together, and it was really fun to use different colors other than the ones that I have that are very sort of basic from my first set, which was the only set that I had for a while. So it's really fun to finally play around with different colors in my favorite medium, because for a long time it didn't feel like I needed to, because I could mix my own colors with gouache, but it's still fun to have colors on hand that I didn't have to mix and I could just paint straight away, and it really made this piece more enjoyable than usual for me. The dark green especially was really great to use for the shadows in this piece. I feel like it contributed a lot to this color palette working together. I think just as these greenish browns are more interesting than just the neutral browns than I had in my basic set. And then pairing those greens with the very vibrant reddish browns, I think that those two colors especially complement each other really well. I really ended up loving the colors in this piece so much. It doesn't look like it, but I actually did also use a very dark blue for the darkest shadows. I didn't make it too vibrant of a blue. I just wanted there to be a separation between the dark green that I was already using for the shadows and also darker than that. So I just used the Prussian blue as sort of a shift in tones for the colors, because I actually didn't want the values to be so drastically contrasty in this piece. I wanted the subtle shifts in hues to be what brings out the color palette. I didn't want to use black for this piece because I feel like that drastic of a shift in values would take away from the different colors that I chose for this piece. So that is it for this little painting. I really enjoyed this one. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed painting it. On other news about my upcoming videos, I do want to do another real-time walkthrough. And this time I'm thinking about recording the audio as I'm doing the sketch, so it feels more organic. I know it doesn't seem like that much of a difference, but for me it's actually a very different kind of format. For my regular videos, what I do is record the artwork first and then do the voiceover, sometimes for days after, so I would end up losing a lot of what I'm thinking while I was painting. So I'm thinking of doing that at least for one of my future walkthroughs. Like, this photo is actually a part of a shoot that I found on Pexels. One of the other photos in that shoot I'm gonna be doing for a walkthrough on my Patreon, so it's gonna be really fun. I want to see if I can play around with the different colors on that one too. So yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and I will be seeing you guys again soon.